the Elon Iger throwdown. I certainly never thought those two worlds would collide. I don't think he's going to go try to assuage his ego, as considerable as it may be, by buying a stinker of a stock after having bought such a terrible stock in Twitter. You can't live in a world where you get even by throwing your money down a well. That does not strike me as a strategy.
Not even a wishing well anymore.
Right. It is a dry well, and a seemingly bottomless one. I can't imagine him doing that at this point. His hands are quite full. I actually retweeted a very thoughtful and rather depressing video from the great Patrick Boyle last night about how badly Twitter is doing at the moment. I'm not sure Patrick is a real gentleman. And a very level-headed guy and knowledgeable. I have my quibbles with his analysis, but I do think that it was, that he does bring up some particularly troubling points. So I do think it's going to be a good opportunity. I was curious about what you guys were all sort of commenting on. Boy, Iger's sure gonna regret this. So far, I mean, my wife on Twitter said something that I think a lot of people agreed with, including me, which was that some of our commenters said it also. The pulling of advertising from Twitter has nothing to do with anti-Semitism except as a pretext.
Yes,
right.
It's the vehicle for
these same companies are supporting TikTok and Facebook, which are equally terrible, or in many cases worse, and they are actively engaged in some of the worst countries in the world for human rights and bigotry. It is pure virtue signaling, which is what, of course, Elon Musk was getting at. They're more interested in looking like they're doing good than doing good, and I don't think that's a surprise to anybody who's either a part of this conversation or listening to it. But so Disney's not alone. All the woke corporations have found the victim du jour. And I think from an entertainment point of view and a media point of view, which is general interest to this program, this is about much more than even something as huge as Twitter, which is huge, because what we saw over the last few years, and it accelerated phenomenally when Musk took over Twitter, is that established media brands, which includes, of course, the so-called journalism brands, have done everything they possibly can to besmirch every independent outlet as racist, anti-Semitic, conspiracy, all the things. And to insist on these either private or quasi-private or government partnership kind of agencies or consortia to basically shut down competition under the rubric of we're protecting the world from terrible things like disagreement about government policies over things like COVID and world events. So this definitely has more to do with a convergence of media equity, old school equity brands trying to knock Twitter out of it than it has to do with any kind of social good. I see, Pro, you were chomping at the bit to run something.
I've got to. I've got to
Here we
pick the
are.
brain of one Ron Coleman very quickly.
Go for it.
Although I don't know if your answer will be very quick, so I don't want to
From me, it's not
inconvenience anyone
likely.
out there. But here's the question. One other time we have seen the corporatists attempt to take out Elon Musk. That was when he was starting off with Tesla, and they attempted to take him out at that point. But so he succeeded there. It's not guaranteed that he'll succeed here, because it feels to me like it's the control oligarchs versus Elon Musk. So in other words, it's the world versus Elon. And I don't see too many people out there who are joining forces with Elon other than the market. But I don't know if the market is strong enough to, if it's bound together with Elon, to take out the institutions, because all the institutional power lies with his opponents. My question for you, Ron, is if you were advising Elon Musk on how to win this battle, which is stacked dramatically against him, what are his best plays? Like a chess player, he does not have the best board. What are his best moves that he could make?
Well, I will tell you, he's made a number of unforced errors in terms of his own understandable reliance in his own genius. He's said some things and tweeted some things and replied to some tweets, which with a little bit more reflection, a little bit more crafting. I mean, it's refreshing as hell that he says things that aren't scripted and that he's telling you really how he sees things. And on the other hand, those videos from the Deal Book interview, he actually came across to me as kind of stammering, and there were some pauses there. He's not a master communicator.
Mm-hmm.
What is appealing?
He's awkward, in fact.
Yeah, he is, and he is appealing because he has so much going for him in terms of a track record, and because he really does tell it like it is. But that one thing I would work on is, if I were advising him, just to maybe some studio time with a really good media coach. He could be better. He has the tools, and if he's going to do it this way, and I think he has to be him, he can't send Ashley St. Clair out to be his spokesperson every time as he did to Europe this week. I mean, she's fantastic. She's a friend of mine, and she often she's putting his case better than he is in many cases, but she doesn't even work for him. So I think his presentation needs to be a little bit better. I would point out that there have been statements of support from teensy-weensy media outlets like Daily Wire and Babylon Bee, and that guys from that crowd, many of whom were my clients. But in terms of the people who really control the media world, they're not going to break pack. They are all about maintaining an oligopoly for themselves, and this is their moment. So he's got a super uphill battle. And by the way, part of his one of the very important things that Patrick Boyle pointed out in his video is that he has other investors that he has to answer to, and that they're also sources of financial leaks, because those of them that are either financial institutions that have to do a certain amount of reporting or are public companies, they have to show their valuation of this investment on their books in a way that Twitter itself, or X Corp as itself as a private company, doesn't have to. He's got problems. I mean, what I don't know is he overselling or underselling the desperateness of it? The interviewer asked him, if people are unhappy with the message coming out now, and these companies are going to destroy you, how are you going to react? And he said, well, tell it to the judge. That's a really bad answer. That's a really bad answer. That's like, after you leave me, bleeding with broken bones in the alley, my big brother's going to come after you. That did not inspire a lot of confidence. And I say this as someone whose entire social media livelihood depends on X, because no other platform has the slightest use for me.
Mm-hmm.
And once it closes, they'll have even less.
Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.